Good evening to each and everyone. Once again, I welcome you all to Indian Section Online platform. Today, our speaker is Brother B.D. Tendulkar. Let us start with a universal invocation. We are all assembled here to do the work of great teacher who are behind the Theosophical Society, as well as they are doing their duties for unfoldment consciousness of whole humanity. Let us start with the universal. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Let us have short meditation. Thank you. Namaste to each and everyone. So we are going to start a letter from book. This is a letters from the Masters of the Wisdom, first series. This book consisted of lot of letters sent to many members of Theosophical Society at the time of formation of our organization. As you know, the big voluminous book, it was written to AP Senate and some letters to A.V. Hume. But this little book is, in fact, it is addressed to many more members, Indian members, outside India members, and there are commentaries given by C. Jinaraja Dasa. And our speaker today is Brother B.D. Tendulkar. He is from Pune, former president of Pune Theosophical Lodge, very well-known senior member of the Theosophical Society. He is national lecturer moving different parts of India, disseminating theosophy, very well-read person, and also moving Bhavali, Bhubaneswar, Banaras, Kakinada, Vijayawada, conducting study classes there. Also, he has been regular in speaking to Mahatma letters and other subjects as and when we request him. So, with this short introduction, we are going to start a very important letter. Of course, some points Brother Tendulkar ji has mentioned. It is the letter number 7, wrote to Brother C.W. Ledbetter by one of our inner founder. Very long letter, pregnant with a very wisdom and what it requires for a disciple or would-be disciple or a aspirant to follow in the spiritual path. So it is very important letter addressed to C.W. Ledbetter, and subsequently it came out with a book KH letter to CW letter. But probably before that it was in the Master's Letter Series 1. So with this short introduction of a book, letter, as well as our speaker, I invite Brother Tendulkar ji to speak or to discuss on this letter, as well as commentary given by Brother C. Jinagadadas. Welcome you, sir.
Yeah. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Brother Pradip ji, for your kind introduction. I will straight go to letter number 7, since we have already commenced study of this letter in the last session held on 3rd June. And I have covered the introductory part of the letter, especially the manner in which Brother Leadbeater proceeded to send his letter to Master KH. And the reply of Master KH is here with us by way of letter number 7 for our study. I just read the first para of the letter. Master says, last spring, March the 3rd, you wrote a letter to me and entrusted it to Ernest. Though the paper itself never reached me, nor was it ever likely to, considering the nature of the messenger its contents have. I did not answer it at the time, but sent you a warning through Upasika. So, this letter, which was written or received by Leadbeater on 31st October 1884. The letter written by Leadbeater was on 3rd of March 1884. So you can see almost 8 months passed for Brother Leadbeater to receive his reply. Now here Master makes it clear that you wrote a letter to me, but it never reached me. And he further says, it was not likely to reach and it will never reach. Why? He points out that reason also, considering the nature of the messenger. Who was the messenger? Messenger was one Mr. Ernest. And Ernest was well known as a spirit guide. And as I mentioned last time, Leadbeater was very much interested in spiritual investigation or investigative spiritualism, you can say. He was more interested in the powers of the medium, powers to see the unseen world or to communicate from the unseen world. And therefore, he used that after consulting a Synod, who was also interested in these kind of communication, as is very clear from the information given by C. Janarajadas, that after the correspondence of the masters with Synod stopped towards end of 1884, Synod was still continuing in his endeavor to contact the masters through medium. And he was almost till end of his life under an impression that he is in communication with the Master M through a medium. That's why when Leadbeater consulted him about contacting the Master through this medium, Synod readily consented or agreed with his idea and gave him a green signal to go ahead. Because in those days, comparatively, Leadbeater was a newcomer in the Theosophical Society, and AP Synod had the reputation of having correspondence with masters and was well known among the Western and English-speaking community of those days, an editor of Pioneer. So naturally, Leadbeater followed that course of action, but here when he received the letter from the Master, he really came to understand the truth that his letter never reached the Master. But then how Master knew the contents? Because Master says, though the letter has not reached, the contents have reached me. In fact, Master knew the contents of the letter even before Leadbeater wrote his letter, because he was aware what was going on in the mind of Mr. Leadbeater. Therefore, the contents had reached the Master. And in fact, he was given a warning through Upasika, that is HPV, Blavatsky. What was the warning? That was a kind of warning not to be too enthusiastic in these spiritualistic experiments of the kind he had undertaken to reach the Masters. Masters can be reached through dedication, through service, through an intense aspiration, through honesty, integrity, being unselfish and working for others. All those qualities are required, and there was absolutely no necessity of going through the mediums. So that's why he was warned through HPV that he should stop those kind of exercises. Now, let us go further. In that message of yours, it was said that since reading esoteric Buddhism and ISIS, your one great wish had been to place yourself under me as a chela, that you might learn more of the truth. So Leadbeater had a desire to put himself under the Master. And what for? To learn more of the truth. And Master was also aware that Synod had told him that, and Leadbeater had written in his letter also, that it would be almost impossible to become a chela without going out to India. Therefore, Leadbeater had a real problem. It was difficult for him to leave his place. He was a priest in Church of England. assistant priest. Under his uncle, who was the main priest. So I don't go into those details, which I have already explained last time. But those details are necessary here to understand what were the difficulties which Leadbeater had in going to India for 7 years to complete the probationary period. He had his family obligations. He was under a sense of gratitude to his uncle, who had given him this opportunity of working, serving in the church, the work of his liking, of giving teachings in religious things and developing them. All those things, there were a number of activities which Leadbeater was looking after in absence of his uncle, because his uncle was mostly involved in university and college work. And therefore, going to India means leaving the Church of England, leaving his duties as a priest. And that would have created a lot of problems for his uncle, who was much dependent on his nephew, because Leadbeater had established himself very well in his work and earned a good reputation. And it was very difficult to find a substitute for him immediately. Therefore, while writing to Master K.H., he was keen to know how to overcome this problem, his personal problems of leaving England for 7 years in order to spend his probationary period in India. But Master made it clear to him that his worry of leaving England and coming to India and staying there for 7 years is not a condition or necessity for chelaship. And that it becomes clear if we go ahead what Master has said. I now answer the above and your other questions. Master says, it is not necessary that one should be in India during the 7 years of probation. A chela can pass them anywhere. That means one condition which Leadbeater felt essential to be fulfilled of going to India was cleared by the Master. And further, Master says, to accept any man as a chela does not depend on my personal will, because Leadbeater wanted himself to be accepted as a chela under Master K.H. And that way, he had communicated his desire and his request to the Master. So Master makes it clear that it is not a question of my personal will. Then what? How a chela can be accepted? Master clarifies, it can be only the result of one's personal merit and exertions in that directions. So it depends upon the would-be chela, the candidate who is offering himself as a chela under any master. So the So, master's decision to accept a chela will depend on the would-be chela's merit, personal merit, and what has he done in that direction so far. He further says, force any one of the masters you may happen to choose. That means, again, it is with the candidate, would-be chela, to select his masters. So, one can decide under whom he should work as a chela. Do good works in his name. Here the qualifications have been prescribed by the masters. Do good works in his name and for the love of mankind. So what is necessary is, what are your attitudes? Are you interested in working for the mankind in service of need, service of the needy, service of those who are under hardship, who are suffering, who need guidance? So whether you are a person who is more interested in others than one's own personal progress, advancement, though spiritual advancement, no doubt. So more important is whether you are concerned with others than your own self, and whether you have not just that concern for your own progress, but real zeal or real love, real compassion, sympathy for the suffering humanity. So it is that concern, that sensitivity for others was of more importance than one's own spiritual progress. That spiritual progress will follow automatically if you have these prerequisites in your own making. Be pure and resolute in the path of righteousness. Here, Master adds in the bracket, as laid down in our rules. So, this is a matter which should be clearly understood, that ideas of morality or ethics or right and wrong, as per our concern, as per our earthly values and concern, as per our conventions, or as per our ideas of etiquettes and manners and social sanctions, is not what the master is emphasizing upon. He wants the real, honest person who is not doing anything or just prove himself. He wants a person to be really, honestly like that from the bottom of his heart. Be pure and resolute in the path of righteousness. It is not just being religious and ritualistic in religious terms, following the rites, customs, traditions, and being in agreement with what the religious scriptures dictate or expect, a person to do. The main thing which Master says is forget yourself, but to remember the good of other people. This self-forgetfulness and remembering others is the main concern. And you will have forced that master to accept you. So the acceptance of the master will be dependent upon the merit of the candidate. Whether the candidate deserves that chelaship, that will decide the master's acceptance of a chela. It is not his personal choice, his personal liking or preference for a person whom he will accept as a chela. Much depends upon the chela himself or herself. Whether he has that background which is essential to become a chela. What he is doing today, how he is utilizing his own potentials in service of others, while living for others. That is more important. And also more important is what are his future potentials? How will he develop? How he approaches life? How he faces the situations in life? Whether he seeks easy path or prepared to accept difficulties. How he makes a choice. Whether he seeks comforts in life where success is assured, or whether he is prepared to take the path which may be apparently difficult, but which may offer chances to learn, chances to go through trials and prove one's merit.
Sir, it is a big letter.
Huh.
There are a lot of things there. So another half an hour, kindly
Okay.
go to the main points.
Okay. So further the master says, so much for candidates during the periods of the undisturbed progress of your society. So what he normally says, these are the things expected during the periods of undisturbed time in the life of the society. Now we are coming to a stage in which the society is. During that time, Theosophical Society was passing through a very difficult time, as you know. What was that? There is something more to be done. However, when Theosophy, the cause of truth, is, as at the present moment, on its stand for life or death before the tribunal of public opinion, that most flippantly cruel, prejudiced, and unjust of all tribunals. You know, you are well aware the difficulties which founders faced during that period, especially HPB. She was made a target by the missionaries with hands in glove with the kulams. And they were used, missionaries as well as kulams, by the black plovers, the dukpats, to defame HPB in her character assassination and to give a severe blow to the Theosophical movement and the Theosophical Society. They created a public opinion. That's why the master says, stand for life or death before the tribunal of public opinion. They created a public opinion, cruel, prejudiced, and unjust. And that was very difficult for the theosophical movement to spread in those circumstances. That is referred to by the master as a collective karma of the caste to which the missionaries belong. Missionaries were used as a tool, no doubt, but they were instrumental and the major part was played by them. And that collective karma was coming in the way of Leadbeater, because Leadbeater was also a priest in the Church of England, belonging to the same caste, same profession, same community. And therefore, it was a difficult and challenge, a difficult trial for him to come to the rescue of the Theosophical Society, to undo what his brother missionaries had done in Madras, to almost giving a severe blow to Theosophical Society. So those were the circumstances which were not the undisturbed days of undisturbed progress of the society. That is what the master is referring to. And if his personal karma may be favorable to his acceptance as a chela, his collective karma was going against him, and he had to work. He had to work out for that collective karma. And therefore, it was an excellent opportunity for Leadbeater to come to Theosophical Society and to undo what the missionaries had done at Adayar. It was difficult for him, no doubt. As I explained earlier, there was problem of family gratitude. There was also one more thing which was perhaps unknown to many of us, that Leadbeater himself was in love with one beautiful girl. He was in the prime of his youth, and he liked a sister of his friend, and he was about to propose her for marriage, but he was not financially well enough to make the proposal, and therefore he had waited. But shortly he was expecting his marriage to materialize. But if he accepts this path of chelaship, he had to forget that. So it was a matter of great sacrifice also for him to leave India, to leave Britain, to come to India, and to accept this chelaship. But Leadbeater was so keen and determined to work for the chelaship that he was prepared to do any kind of sacrifice, and that master knew. And therefore, that time master advised him, when he saw that determination in his mind, when he saw that he has made up his mind on his own, not by the advice of the master, master liked that. people who are prepared to take risks, people who are prepared to make their own mind, people who are not dependent on somebody's guidance, advice, counseling. They are the people who are the right material for Chelaship. And that Master found in Mr. Leadbeater. And therefore, Master says that he need not worry about 7 years probation in India. It could be even curtailed to a few months, provided he has that zeal, that ability to accept challenge and work selflessly for furthering the cause of truth, the furthering the theosophical movement in those days when Theosophical Society itself was in greater problem. So they will stop before nothing to ruin the reputation of the founders. That was the worry of the master. And in Leadbeater, he saw a man who could arrest that movement of the missionaries and re-establish the reputation of the founders and the Theosophical Society, and the movement will flourish. Therefore, Master assured him that Chelaship, because in that letter itself he has indicated that. And in a letter, which is letter number 8, is just confirmation of that, because there the Master advises him to not to waste time, to take his decision fast, without even wasting a day. And not only that, he suggests him to join Upasika by the 5th of that month. Remember, this was on the 1st of November. And the master was telling Leadbeater to book his journey by the steamer which was to leave on 5th. So he advised Leadbeater to join HPB at Alexandria for his further journey to India. Remember, Master was in Tibet, Leadbeater was in Great Britain, but Master was fully aware of the schedule of the steamers going to India. And accordingly, he had suggested even the date to him. But remember, it was not an order. It was an hint, it was a suggestion. And Leadbeater had to act on him. And Leadbeater acted on him promptly. Master even wanted him not only to come to India earliest, but he wanted him to join HPB, because he was more worried about HPB's health and also about the difficulties which he was facing in terms of the enemies who were out to do anything against her. And those who were accompanying HPB at that time on the steamer were not competent enough to give her that kind of support and protection on this long journey. Therefore, he found a right man in Leadbeater to accompany HBP, and that way Leadbeater did all the arrangements for its journey. He had to take care of so many family responsibilities, so many responsibilities relating to his work as a priest, and also his various commitments which he had made to various friends and relatives. So all this he did in such a great pressure, under such a great pressure, and with such a great ability to undertake whatever kinds of work day and night. He almost did not sleep during those 3 days. It was only after he left that he could get a sleep. So that was the kind of determination, dedication that he showed, which was very much expected for a would-be chela. He did not bother about anything, including his own marriage, in which he was so much involved as his future dream. So that is a kind of sacrifice which was expected on the part of a person who aspires to be a chela. And such a person alone can force the master of his choice to accept him as a chela. And that is what Leadbeater proved through his determination, through his action, and through his acceptance of the mind which he could, the decision of his masters, though it was not a decision of the masters, Leadbeater take it as his decision and obeyed it without anything in his mind which can deter him from acting upon that decision. That is what we see in this letter, and we can see what are the qualities which are required for a would-be chela in the personality of Mr. Leadbeater. That's why this letter is considered to be very important so far as probationary period or discipleship is concerned. What are the things which are given importance in chelaship? These are the persons who are ultimately going to be the adepts for the humanity. So they are tested very severely. There is no relaxation of the rules, occult rules. There is no favoritism by the masters. And therefore, many times masters themselves create circumstances for their test and trial. They may create temptations. They may even allow dukbas to have their play, to misguide their chelas, aspirants, so that they will be tested under adverse circumstances. These circumstances will also allow the vices and virtues to come out. So the real nature of the aspirant comes out. You cannot just do it just to show to the master or your guru how good am I am. The real nature of the person, as well as the real potentialities, hidden vices and hidden virtues, come out under different circumstances. Therefore, different chances are given to a chela to face those circumstances. And it is observed by the master how he behaves under those circumstances, how the thoughts are, the master can read the thoughts in the mind of the chela. He can trace the progress that is taking place in the chela. And it is this kind of exercise that master is observing. But at the same time, the rules, the occult rules, which are never compromised, never breached, which have to be followed in toto. And that is what is observed during the period of chelaship, during the period of probation. And in a deserving candidate like Leadbeater, those conditions like periods of probation, etc., can be curtailed. So those conditions are not more important. Real conditions are to test the inner strength of the disciple, inner strength of the chela, inner potentialities of the chela. So that's why Master says it depends on the personal merit and the exertion in the direction of discipleship which a candidate shows, which decides their decision to accept a chela or not. So it is in fact the decision made by the chela himself on the basis of his merit, on the basis of his capacities, his potentials, and his sincerity, readiness to exert his hard work, and prepared to do any kind of sacrifice under any circumstances. It may require even martyrship or death or whatever kind of penalty. And at the same time, not to be deterred by any kind of temptations, even the assurance of an adeptship. Nothing will deter a candidate who is the real gold, the real material for the future adeptship. That is what is tested in this all exercise of probation period. I think it is time for me to stop here and to give time for translation or questions and answers as brother Pradip ji might think necessary.
Okay.
I stop here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. सिस्टर मीनाक्षी, आप कुछ बोलेंगे क्या हिंदी में?
नमस्ते. थैंक यू ब्रदर. आपका क्या क्वेश्चन है ब्रदर प्रदीप जी?
नहीं, आप कुछ ऐड करेंगे हिंदी में जो?
हाँ, ट्रांसलेट करना है.
ठीक है, करें.
हाँ, थैंक यू. आज हम लेटर नंबर 7 ले रहे हैं, जो कि मास्टर के एच सी डब्ल्यू लेडबीटर को 31 अक्टूबर 1884 में लिखते हैं. सी डब्ल्यू लेडबीटर अध्यात्मवाद के बारे में उत्सुक रहते हैं और वे सियांसेस में भाग लेते हैं. विलियम एग्लिंगटन के स्पिरिट गाइड अर्नेस्ट के माध्यम से वे मास्टर को पत्र लिखते हैं. अर्नेस्ट मास्टर के अस्तित्व का दावा करते हैं और पत्र को मास्टर के एच तक पहुंचाने का आश्वासन देते हैं. चेला पद के बारे में सी डब्ल्यू लेडबीटर के प्रश्नों का उत्तर मास्टर के एच इस पत्र के माध्यम से देते हैं. मास्टर कहते हैं, 3 मार्च 1884 को आपने मेरे लिए एक पत्र लिखा और उसे अर्नेस्ट को सौंपा. अर्नेस्ट, जो कि विलियम एग्लिंगटन के स्पिरिट गाइड थे. हालांकि उस संदेशवाहक का स्वरूप देखते हुए न ही इसकी संभावना थी, लेकिन पत्र की विषय वस्तु मिली. वह पत्र मुझ तक नहीं पहुंचा, लेकिन उसकी विषय वस्तु यानी उसका मजकूर मुझे मिला. मैंने उस समय इसका उत्तर नहीं दिया, लेकिन उपासिका यानी HPB के माध्यम से आपको चेतावनी भेजी. तुम्हारे उस संदेश में कहा गया था कि इसोटेरिक बुद्धिज्म और आइसिस पढ़ने के बाद एक बहुत बड़ी इच्छा थी कि आप मेरे चेला बनें ताकि आप सत्यता को सीख सकें. मैंने मिस्टर सिनेट से जाना कि आपको लगता है कि भारत में जाने के बिना चेला बनना लगभग असंभव होगा. आप आशा करते हैं कि कुछ वर्षों में ऐसा करने में आप सक्षम होंगे, क्योंकि आप जिनके प्रति एहसानमंद है वह कृतज्ञता आपको अपने देश में रहने के लिए बाध्य करती है. मास्टर कहते हैं 7 साल की परीक्षा के दौरान किसी को भारत में रहने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। एक चेला उन्हें कहीं भी पास कर सकता है। किसी भी व्यक्ति को चेला के रूप में स्वीकार करना यह मेरी व्यक्तिगत मर्जी पर निर्भर नहीं करता है। यह केवल उस दिशा में किसी की अपनी योग्यता और परिश्रम के फलस्वरूप हो सकता है। आपके द्वारा चुने गए मास्टर्स में से किसी एक को बाध्य करें और मानव जाति के प्रेम के लिए भले कार्य करें, जैसे कि हमारे नियमों में दर्शाया गया है। नीति परायणता में खरे और दृढ़ रहे, निष्कपट और निस्वार्थ रहे, अपने आप को भूल जाए लेकिन दूसरों की भलाई याद रखे, और इस तरह आप मास्टर को आपको स्वीकार करने के लिए मजबूर करेंगे, बाध्य करेंगे। आपकी सोसाइटी के अबाधित प्रगति की अवधि के दौरान कैंडिडेट्स के लिए इतना काफी है। हालांकि कुछ और किया जाना है। थियोसॉफी जो सत्य पर आधारित है, वर्तमान समय में जनमत के न्यायाधिकरण जो सबसे क्रूर, पूर्वाग्रही और अन्यायपूर्ण है, उसके कारण कठिनाई में है। आप जिस जाति से संबंधित है, उसके सामूहिक कर्मों का भी विचार किया जाना है। क्रिश्चियन मिशनरियों और पादरियों की थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी के खिलाफ कुटिल साजिशों के कारण आपके दिल में जो ध्येय है, उसमें आपदा आ रही है। इस बात से इनकार नहीं किया जा सकता। संस्थापकों की प्रतिष्ठा को मिटाने से पहले वे रुकेंगे नहीं। क्या आप उनके पापों का प्रायश्चित करने को तैयार हैं? फिर कुछ महीनों के लिए अड्यार चले जाए। यदि आपके रिश्तेदार को, यानी चाचा, जिनके प्रति वे कृतज्ञ थे, यह बातें उचित रूप से समझाएंगे, तब कुछ महीनों की अनुपस्थिति के कारण आपके संबंधों या कृतज्ञता में न ही दरार आएगी या वे कमजोर होंगे। जो भी अपने परिवीक्षा के वर्षों को कम करेगा, उसे थियोसॉफी के लिए त्याग करना होगा। कपटी लोगों द्वारा सोसाइटी को कगार पर लाने के बाद सोसाइटी को ऐसे स्त्री और पुरुषों की जरूरत है जो सत्य के प्रति दृढ़ हो। यह कार्य नेक इरादों से हो और न कि केवल पुण्य कार्यों की फल प्राप्ति हेतु हो। कठिनाई, त्याग, प्राणाहुति, मृत्यु ऐसे प्रलोभन है जो एक सच्चे चेला पर परीक्षण की अवधि के दौरान आते हैं। आप मुझसे पूछते हैं, परीक्षण के काल के दौरान मुझे किन नियमों का पालन करना चाहिए और परीक्षण काल शुरू होने की आशा में मैं अपने कार्य कितनी जल्दी प्रारंभ करूं? मेरा जवाब है, जैसा कि ऊपर दर्शाया गया है, अपने भविष्य का निर्माण आप स्वयं करते हैं और प्रतिदिन आप उसका ताना बाना बुन रहे हो। केवल सलाह देने के बजाय किसी भी कार्य की आपसे मैं यदि मांग करता हूँ, तब आपके कार्य के हर एक परिणाम के लिए मैं उत्तरदायी होऊंगा और आपको केवल दुय्यम श्रेय प्राप्त होगा। एक चेला के लिए चेलाशिप शिक्षात्मक और साथ ही परिवीक्षा का चरण है, और वही यह निर्धारित कर सकता है कि इसकी पूर्ति सिद्धत्व में होगी या विफलता में। हमारे प्रणाली के प्रति भूलयुक्त धारणा से चेला अक्सर आदेशों की प्रतीक्षा में अपना कीमती समय गंवाते हैं, जिसे उन्होंने अपने स्वयं के प्रयास से करना चाहिए। हमारे उद्देश्य पूर्ति के लिए प्रचारकों की, निष्ठावानों की, एजेंट्स की, यहाँ तक कि स्वयं को न्यौछावर करने वालों की जरूरत है। लेकिन किसी भी मनुष्य से ऐसी मांग नहीं की जाती। तो अब आप अपना भाग्य स्वयं चुने और थामे रहे, और हमारे भगवान तथागत की स्मृति आपको सर्वोत्तम के लिए निर्णय लेने में मदद करे। भगवान बुद्ध को अपने पिछले जन्मों में C.W. लेडबिटर ने भगवान बुद्ध को आमने सामने देखा था। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
थैंक यू सिस्टर मीनाक्षी जी, आप बहुत सुंदर आप हिंदी में बता दिया। तो मैं जो मेंबर अभी प्रेजेंट है, they can add or they can ask any question to our speaker, brother Tendulkar ji.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
I am just requesting the members, if they like, they can ask, or they can add anything if they like.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir. May I ask a question, sir?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Am I audible properly?
Right.
Last point, which perhaps I did not mention, but it has come in Meenakshi's Hindi translation.
Yes, yes.
He says that chelaship is an educational as well as probationary stage.
Yes.
And the chela alone can determine whether it shall end in adeptship or failure. So even,
very important point.
Even acceptance of a chela does not mean that he will successfully complete the chelaship. It will be a trial for day and night throughout the probationary period, because chelas, from a mistaken idea of our system, too often watch and wait for orders. So this is a traditional outlook of most of the chelas, that his master or guru will show him what to do, or he will teach him everything from A to Z. So that mistaken idea must be removed by a would-be chela. He has to.
Madhav ji, what is your question? Madhav ji, आपका question क्या है?
Any question?
There is a question. Madhav ji, आपका question पूछिए, बोलिए.
Yes, sir. अभी जो साहब ने कहा उससे रिलेटेड ही है. उसमें मास्टर जी कहते हैं, if I were to demand that you should do one thing or any other instead of simply advising, I would be responsible for every effect that might follow from this step and you acquire but a secondary merit. तो ये यहाँ पर जो कहा कि you acquire a secondary merit, इसका क्या मतलब हुआ यहाँ पर?
इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि आप खुद की इनिशिएटिव से जो करते हैं उसका आपको फुल मेरिट मिलता है, बिकॉज यू टेक द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर यू डू, यू टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर योर सक्सेस और फेल्यूर. बट when you wait for orders and only follow the orders, that time you are doing only the duty of obeying the orders. And to obey orders doesn't require any great merit. Personal merit comes when you act on your own, with your own strength, with your own confidence, with your own determination and willpower. And then you get the full merit for your karma. But when somebody else guides you, somebody else shows you how to do a thing, and only then you proceed, then the real merit or real credit for the work done is of the person who guides you, who advises you. And your merit is only secondary. It is not the first-hand merit, it is second-hand merit. That is what is conveyed in that sentence.
Okay, thank you, brother.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Right.
Suppose you obey order of a particular person. That Brother Tendulkar ji told us that you will get just obeying an order. The benefit is secondary benefit, means you are obeying the order of a particular individual. He may be the great ones. Brother, I want last sentence. It is also another last but two sentences. Our cause, Mahatma says, our cause needs missionaries Our cause needs missionaries, devotees, agents, even masters perhaps. So when you work for the Theosophical Society, Madhavji, so you be a missionary like Christian, Mohammedan missionaries like that. You can work. You have full devotees, agents. They are. I mean, you can live your life for the cause. But the master says next sentence, it cannot demand any man to make himself either. So
Yes.
here the inner founder sir did not demand, Madhamji, you be a missionary, you be a devotees, agents, matter. It is left to us. Then last sentence is, now they have given the option to CW tutor, which is applicable to us. हमारा लिए भी ये भी option है to choose and grasp our own destiny. At this age, at this time, we can choose and grasp our own destiny, and then may the Lord Tathagat memory aid you to decide for the best. So very important letter by Master K.H. to senior Leadbeater, and it will followed by letter number 8, another very interesting in for next class, suitable to if time we will see, then letter number 8 is also linked with letter number 7. And I think we will close here.
This letter number 8, Pradip ji,
Yes.
was produced by precipitation on the palm of HPV turned upward. That is a story of the production of this letter number 8.
Okay. That we will take up in another class.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Anything anybody wants to add anything? Okay.
This
So,
Tathagata's memory refers to the previous incarnation of Leadbeater. In few incarnations back, he was face to face with the master in those incarnations, but he was not in this incarnation remembering that. So master aroused those memories of the previous incarnation of Leadbeater, and he says that may our Lord's Tathagata's memory aid you to decide for the best. Okay. So he induced in the light of that to make his decision and make his mind.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thanks Pradip and thanks Tendulkar.
Thanks
to listen you. I just arrived at Adyar.
Oh, you arrived at Adyar.
Thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pradip.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I request Mithalini ji to conclude with a closing prayer.
Asato ma satkamaya, tamasu ma jyotirkamaya, mrityurmang amrutangamaya, sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve भद्राणि पश्यन्तु नमस्ते शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, each and every member who are present here. Tomorrow we will have a 7:30 program. That is also program. It will be a talk speech delivered from the astral plane, from the book The Astral Plane by Brother Dr. Partha Sarathi Prasad Sharin. With this announcement, I am going to close the session. Thank you.